Well, good evening. Sorry for the little delay. Welcome to the Tempe City Council regular council meeting for January 10th, 2019. Happy New Year to everyone. For those that are able, are you willing to stand and join us for a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Next item is our approval of the city council meeting minutes. Vice Mayor Cubey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move to approve meeting minutes 3A, 1 through 4.
It's been moved by Vice Mayor Cubey, second by Councilmember Keating. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. That motion does carry. Next.
Move
Vice
to
Mayor.
approve items 3B, 1 through 6. Acceptance of board, commission, and committee meeting minutes.
It's been moved by Vice Mayor Cubey, seconded by Councilmember Keating. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. That motion does carry. I do not have any reports or announcements. Mr. Manager, Andrew?
Pardon me. No announcements today.
All right. Next item on our agenda is our consent agenda. All the items listed on the consent agenda will be considered as a group and will be enacted with one motion by the City Council unless an item is removed for separate consideration. Members of the public may remove a public hearing item for separate consideration. Public hearing items are designated with an asterisk on our agenda, and council members may remove any item for separate consideration. If you do wish to speak on an item, please fill out a speaker's card, which you can find in the back of the council chambers, and please hand it to our city clerk staff. I think Tim is back there. I'll call your name when it is your turn for public comment on the item that you specified. The consent agenda is as follows: miscellaneous items 5A1 through 5A3, awards and bids and contracts items 5B1 through 5B9, and resolutions items 5C1 through 5C5. Okay, is there anyone in the audience wishing to have a consent agenda item removed for separate consideration that is a public hearing item? Could you please get my attention? And none, I will look to my council colleagues. I think they're, anyone want to have an item removed for separate consideration? Not even the school. I just, yeah.
I just have 5B5.
We have 5B5. Yes, Councilmember Keating.
5C2.
5C2. I was like, whoa, all right. It's not a public hearing item. All right, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as read with the exception of items 5B5 and 5C2? Moved by Councilmember Adams. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Granville. Please vote. That motion passes 7-0. Item 5B5 is the award a 3-year contract with 2 one-year renewal options to Precision Graphics for custom graphic designed t-shirts and sports clothing for the Community Services Department. Councilmember Granville.
Thank you, Mayor. So first off, I'm totally in support of this. No worries at all. The thing that I thought was interesting, and I thought you could maybe help me out, I just don't understand it because I haven't seen this before. And I thought maybe because I wasn't reading close enough, or maybe it doesn't come up that often. But under the award criteria, number 2, which is 20% of the award criteria, is proximity of local facility to City of Tempe offices, which makes perfect sense for t-shirt shopping because you might need a t-shirt on really short notice and you don't want to wait 2 or 3 days for shipping or whatever the case may be. I was wondering, though, how that might apply to other scenarios where sort of speed of emergency deliveries might be helpful, whether that's paper supplies, office supplies, whatever the case may be. So I'd always been under the assumption that we couldn't include something like this because of the state legislature. But clearly we can, because you know your job way better than anyone else ever could, probably in the whole state. So what's the distinction here that allows, and what are sort of, can you give me a sense of those sort of limits of that distinction of when proximity can be a factor?
Yes, Mayor Mitchell, Councilmember Granville, Michael Green, Procurement Administrator for Tempe. We use this occasionally, Councilmember Granville, for situations where we're writing contracts that there is a need or there's a reason to have a vendor in close proximity for just, as you mentioned, delivery issues, coordination issues. If it's related to infrastructure that we're trying to support and maintain, the location of the firm is important. So as long as we can tie that to a real verifiable value that we get from that, we can require that. And we try to keep that fairly general. So in this instance, we talked about close proximity to the city of Tempe in the greater Phoenix area, I think is some of the language we used. So, and we can do that. And where we can't do it is if we're arbitrary, if we're saying that there's just a geographic preference and we can't tie that to any particular value that can generate to the contract by having a vendor located in a better close proximity. So again, we use it, I would estimate maybe, 10% of the time through all of our bidding that we do, 10 to 15% of the time, there's usually a proximity issue that does create value for Tempe. And in those situations, we can designate that. We rarely say that it has to be within Tempe borders, but a close proximity is usually the language we use.
That helps me out a lot. Would it be possible, assuming it's okay with council, just to get just a short description of here are the types of things, the types of bids where this normally comes up, whether it's shirts. I mean, obviously there are certain things where you're going to run out of, bullets or vests. And so, 6-week wait time might not be a big deal. But just so I can get a better sense, maybe if I saw some examples, I could start to churn in my brain what the pattern is.
You bet.
Thank you so much.
Certainly can.
Anything else? Is there a motion on item 5B5? Moved by Councilmember Keating, seconded by Councilmember Adams. Please vote. That motion passes 7-0. Next is item 5C2, which I'm sure I do have some cards for item 5C2. And item 5C2 is to adopt a resolution establishing a license for a shared active transportation vehicles in the right-of-way and to amend the city code appendix A and schedule of fees and charges, chapter 29, streets and sidewalks, to include a new fee for right-of-way use license. This was not a public hearing, but we have removed it for public hearing. And I will take the cards as I receive them. So I do have several cards, and I just got several other cards. First speaker I have is Gabriel Arroyo. Please state your name and place of residence for the record, please.
Yeah, for showing up early. My name is Gabriel Arroyo. I live here in Tempe. All right. So I am here representing myself. I'm not a representative of the company. I do contract for Bird and Lime, just to be completely honest. Since they came around, it's been great for me and my family with regards to fiscally speaking. The impact that it's had on my family has been astonishing. So I was mainly, I just wanted to make sure that Tempe didn't pass a law or rule that, would drive away the company and therefore impact myself financially. I was looking at this and I was reading, I think I read it online, and, $7,888 for a license seemed kind of odd to me. And I was wondering if there's, what differentiates this company from other businesses that say would get a tax license here in Tempe, pay taxes to Tempe, and why it wouldn't fall under that. Also, what is the company getting in return for, for the money that they're paying? And If we couldn't follow more along the lines of what, say, Scottsdale just passed, they passed a law where, you could share the sidewalks with regards to just yielding to pedestrians in 35-mile-an-hour zones where there's no clear lanes or whatever. Scottsdale passed that today. What else? Possibly recovering all scooters at, starting at 10 p.m., maybe have them off the road by midnight. That one I did like, because one of the things I don't like is people riding the scooters in the middle of the night for safety issues, plus if they've been drinking, or what they say, nothing good ever happens after midnight. So that was my thought process. But mainly, I'm just afraid of pushing them out. If we impose this on them and they decide, you know what, the heck with Tempe, I'm out of here, what's going to happen to me and my family? Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Ms. Brenda Vidonic. Did I say that correctly? Pardon me? Oh, okay. More importantly, we can come back there.
Well.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the council. Speak up a little bit. Okay. There. Can you hear me now? All right, great. My concern is this, that I'm in this thing, and these kids are on these motorized things, that motorized scooters like that they go at top speed. I don't know how many close calls I've had. I lost my train of thought. Sorry. That, like I said, I don't know how many close calls I've had, that I would like to see these be a little, the speed lowered a little bit for them, because they don't need to be going at top speeds on the sidewalk, and they don't need to be stopping and just abandoning them on the sidewalks. I mean, I came to Tempe after my husband had open heart surgery. I had to get his medication, but it was over at the CVS on Mill and University, and I was having to dodge all these scooters, and it was quite traumatizing. And something needs to be done. And plus they just leave them the free charging, that they put them at by transformers, and so they charge up and then they take them off again, and or they'll just leave them, they'll hide them. And I've seen, I don't know how many that have been turned into their own personal scooters. So I don't know. I know that we'll be working with the city of Tempe Police Department, I hope, and to get this issue solved. That it was a great idea. It was a wonderful idea. But kids being kids, they'll just do whatever they want. They don't follow the traffic laws. They're on wheels. They're going faster than this thing does. And it's very upsetting that they'll almost run head on into either the train or a bus. And it's like, oh, what, are you honking at me? Type thing. So that's really my only concerns. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I have Kim. Gaffney Loza, please come on down.
Hi, Mayor and Council. Thank you very much for allowing me to speak. Kim Gaffney Loza, North Tempe neighborhood. I'm speaking for myself, not the neighborhood association, and most of my remarks are anecdotal more than anything. Just today, yesterday I walked Evelyn Holman Park, and there were 2 scooters hid behind a post at one of the Ramadas. Today I walked by, and there were 6. So they tripled overnight. And we found them in the pond. When I took Jennifer and Randy through Low Piano, they were in the canal. They're left everywhere. So I really applaud, the fact that we're looking at regulating the company. And I don't think this business license is prohibitive. I think it makes them more responsible. I think you've got a lot of safety issues that you're going to have to address when it comes to the safety portion. I've seen multiple people on one scooter. I've seen them run red lights. And I don't think that people realize how dangerous that actually is, not only to pedestrians, but to themselves. Luckily, I'm very ambulatory, and when I walk my dogs, I can walk around the scooters that are on the sidewalks, but not everybody is. And so you've got that safety problem there also. So I just wanted to let you know that I support this, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Kim. Abe Arbizio? Arbizio? Please state your name and place of residence for the record.
Yeah, my name is Abram
Wait.
Arbizo.
Come down here in the microphone. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Abe Arbizo, and again, I live in Tempe at Valor on 8th. Again, mine is to reaffirm the situation where they need to be controlled. I've had to lose something like close to 20 of those scooters because they were parked long ways across the whole sidewalk. And I have to do that almost on a daily basis, nearly every other day, because these people who are supposed to park these things off the sidewalk, they don't. When you get 20 or 30 and somebody pulls up in a white van and just starts unloading them, they don't care where they put them. And these are company people, not just civilians trying to get a job. And then you've got individuals that have gotten hit. My wife was being modest. She's been hit 4 times with kids running as fast as they can. And they end up nicking her, or bumping her, or hitting her outright because they couldn't control the scooter. Now, I'm not saying that this is a bad thing. I love alternative vehicles. But when you get an individual that keeps getting hurt, and then me having to maintain that sidewalk every time I come up to these things, you don't understand how angry it makes me. Because I have to keep doing this for a bunch of kids that can't have a little bit of respect for the roadways. Now, I am for the police enforcing these things, enforcing the laws, making people responsible, making companies responsible for the things that they put out in the public. If somebody was to put cyanide and put it in a Coke can, you would definitely take action against it, right? Well, when these kids are getting hurt, I just talked to somebody at a hospital that broke both of his arms, riding his scooter as fast as he can and hit a pothole. When he hit that pothole, he ended up grabbing the arm of the scooter, broke both of his arms. Now he's out for almost half a year. That means he had to quit his job and find public assistance because he couldn't get it he was the only earner in his house. I had to sit there and listen to him talk for a while, all because of a scooter. Now, there's a lot of things that we have to deal with, but when my wife's one of those victims too, I'm a little irritated by it. So if there's a way to kind of regulate these people and make sure that they're under some kind of rule of thumb, because it's great that these things are free, but whenever it gets to the point where it starts hurting people, then you have to wonder how free is it really? Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Mr. Bartel. I have to call you Mr. Bartel. I can't call you Steve. It's not sad. You got 2 former students up here. Well, for the record, Mr. Bartel was my 3rd grade teacher.
You never thought you'd see me again. Huh?
No, this is good.
Returned homework assignments?
We did our assignments. I can't speak for Robin.
Homework's coming after this. Okay, hello, and thank you for giving me this opportunity. I'm with Safety on Sidewalks. It's kind of an informal group. My name is Steve Bartel, and I'm the resident of Tempe. I first moved to Tempe in 1968. I taught at Tempe Elementary School District, and two of you are my former students. I brag. I'm sorry. I brag about you guys. I brag about Tempe. The fact that you were in my class. The downtown, the diversity, the TCA, can't forget that. I always believed that Tempe was a safety-first city, but I think I'm wrong. The city is proposing a license to these scooter companies, knowing that they haven't put public safety first, in my opinion. The evidence is clear. The city claims a safety working group exists, but the records seem to show that there's no action on public safety, so it can't be safety first. For these motorized vehicles on sidewalks, I can't even read. These motorized scooter companies state on each scooter, it's on there, no riding on sidewalks. It says on there. The city knows this, yet it doesn't seem that we're enforcing these safety rules on sidewalks. Talk to the scooter companies, they'll tell you that they can't enforce their own safety requirement, that it's up to the city. They'll tell you that it's up to the city to enforce that. That's right, the city is the only one that can enforce. This is why I can't say, I gotta get my glasses on. No riding on sidewalks is the only way it can be forced through the city. I'm not blaming the scooter companies. The city council has the power to have the scooter companies own up to their own requirements. Only the city can do that. Other cities that believe in this concept of safety first, cities for safety first, they placed a cease and desist on the scooter companies until safety issues were worked out. They don't say that the companies dump these scooters on the city and use that as an excuse or reason to delay. Yet the city is not enforcing this no riding on sidewalks, already a safety requirement by both Bird and Lime scooter companies. I don't know, does it have to do with the city profits, $1.06 per scooter per day? If the city enforces the scooter's own safety requirements, will the city experience less use and therefore less income? Almost done. I see it. It says stop time. I'm almost. Is that
Sorry,
okay?
you don't have to try to wrap up.
I will. No riding on the sidewalks is a no-brainer and should have and still should be immediately enforced by the city. The city has an opportunity to make safety a first priority. Entrepreneurial thinking and innovation should not come at the expense of safety. Both can be had. I think that's it for me.
Thank you, Mr. Bartel. Yes, we have a question for you, Vice Mayor Keating.
Bartel,
Yes, hi.
I'm sorry I didn't get the opportunity to have you as a teacher.
Oh,
You might have
well.
taught me a few things.
It was a little easier in third grade than it is up here, right?
But about the sidewalk issue, because I think about this a lot as well, when there is a bike lane, it's a pretty easy ask to have a scooter rider ride in the bike lane. But if there is no bike lane, there's no other option except riding in the street. Do you think that the scooter rider should choose the street with no bike lane?
I don't know if I have the answer to that, but I think my answer is we've got to get the safety. It says on the scooter, no riding on sidewalks. But where do we see most of the scooters riding? On the sidewalks. So that's like I said, it's a no-brainer. That should be enforced. And some of the issues that people have with safety now, had that been enforced, if that is being enforced, that wouldn't have happened to some of these people that have already expressed their own concerns. So enforce that and keep the innovation. I mean, it's great. I love this city. You guys deserve a lot of credit for the way it looks compared to the way it looked in 1968 and 1976 and 1977. It looks a lot different. And you two look a lot different. No, you don't. I can still recognize you on the street.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bartel.
Thank you. It's steep, but that's okay. I'll take Mr. Bartel. Thanks.
All right, next is Mr. Brian Grattan.
Thank you. I'm Brian Grattan. I am a resident of Tempe. I've lived here for 10 years and worked here for 20 years before that. And I represent myself, though my participation came, as some council members know, because of a big response on Nextdoor, the social media site, when they realized that the proposals coming forward today didn't have any safety provisions in them. And a lot of negative reaction to that among the community members. And I think what I'd like to start with is irony. I know that's done a lot at city council meetings, so I'm going to do it as well. I was walking up Mill Avenue on Tuesday at 1:30 p.m., bike lane, both sides, and someone came flying down Mill on the pedestrian walkway, weaving back and forth between pedestrians, smacked right into somebody. Didn't hurt them that much, but the scooter guy slid right out onto Mill Avenue, and his scooter went the other way. There were no cars going by at the time. Now, if I thought about that, and I thought, well, according to the policy that's coming forward, that e-scooter rider was completely in his rights. There are no speed limits, and they can ride on any sidewalk that they want to. So I thought I was on a Mad Max film, you know, where the guys running the machines are running the world. But I really wanted to try to figure out how Tempe came to this place. I mean, 1 year since they started and no regulations at all. We know that had to be a mistake because they're now willing, it seems, to pay a kind of money that other cities are also charging them for licensing. But it doesn't mean we'd have to go back. I'm not asking us to go back in history. I'm asking us to learn from history. And what we learn from history is don't trust these companies. These are not technologically innovative companies. All the technology comes from China. They are venture capitalist companies. What they want to do is maximize profit. That means that they are opposed to safety rules. They've defeated, for example, the helmet law in California. I've looked at many cities around the United States and in Europe, and what I find is that Tempe rests within some of those communities that didn't do very much at all about them, that seemed to think that they were progressive. And yet, here are the cities that have either banned them, taken the scooters off the streets, enforced a pilot program, or did safety rules. Portland, Seattle, Los Angeles, Amsterdam, Barcelona. Not progressive places, I suppose, but I'm giving you the sense that even now those cities that were fairly lenient are asking for safety rules. Not for licensing agreements, for safety rules. So people are getting hurt out there. We know it. It's time for the city to stop them on the sidewalks and to get rules about things such as Tucson, liability insurance the companies have to have. California, no scooters on streets, on sidewalks rather. Other places, a driver's license so we don't have kids riding on them. There's a lot of safety rules out there, and a committee of this group, if they paid attention to safety, could devise some good rules right away that would protect the citizens of Tempe. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Wait, Mr. Grattan, we have a question for you. Vice Mayor?
And here I get to claim because Professor Grattan was my advisor in my master's thesis. So, so we have the connection here.
I forgot to say one thing I want to say, and that is that the staff of the City Council treated me great. They provided me public documents that I should have generously and well. I really appreciated that very much.
So I understand your frustration with the lack of public safety rules that we're going to be legislating tonight, and we do know there is a work group that's dealing with that. It's a separate issue, and perhaps it should have been integrated from the very beginning, but there's also a frustration in the community that I don't think it's been a year, but certainly over 7 months where we've had the scooters on the road. Are you opposed to the regulations as stated, though, in the proposed
The proposal
ordinance?
has one very good section, and that is the collection section and the end user section. That it might work for people who are in wheelchairs or who have ADA problems. It does look like it's going to take a while. You got to take a picture of it, then you got to call somebody. They call the company, I assume. 2 hours for the company to come get it. If the company doesn't, then the city comes out and picks it up. That's a lot of hours while that person in the wheelchair is stuck there. But it is at least a legitimate effort. I like that part of it very much. But otherwise, there are no safety rules in the entire proposal. There's no speed limits. There's no helmet law. They can go anywhere that they want to go. There's no driver's license. There's no insurance. When the guy got hit on Mill Avenue, the company has an indemnity that absolutely protects it, even if the scooter is defective. The city has also indemnified it completely. I thought when that happened, that the guy in the street that was on the e-scooter might have sued the pedestrian because he had perfect right to be on the sidewalk going as fast as he wanted under what will be the policy.
Yeah, one thing, thank you for bringing this to attention. I want everyone to know, because we have a lot of speakers, we do take the enforcement seriously and safety. And in order for us to do this, we have to go, there's a step process in governing. And we have to have some type of an agreement with said vendors, that some of them are here tonight, in order for us to enforce rules and regulations and some safety to be part of, users of our roadways. So that's the step that we're taking. In a perfect world, it can happen overnight, but I will honestly tell you, I share this with my fellow mayors across the country, and I've been at meetings. All of a sudden, one night, we wake up and all these scooters appear. Before there was the scooters, it was the dockless bikes. And we all know what happened to the dockless bikes. That being said, we are working as diligent as we can. We do take safety very, very important. And that's part of the steps that we do have a working group that we're in the process, but there are certain things that we have to follow first, like you can't have safety and enforce it without having an agreement with certain companies, and they are using our right-of-way, so that's what we're discussing tonight.
I know, but that's not what Portland did, right? So Portland said safety. We're concerned about safety. Tucson said safety before you put these scooters out. And that's where I think the Tempe City Council didn't quite do its job.
Councilman Granville?
First of all, I want to say I appreciate, we'll have a lot of speakers. I appreciate you guys coming to do this. This is a thing that obviously directly affects practically everyone in the city almost every day now. And a couple of things. So first off, I think we all wish this had gone a faster process, no doubt at all. One of the reasons this is coming before the safety stuff is this actually started off not as a scooter committee. It actually started off as a bike share committee. And we were probably 4 months into bike share regulations when the scooters showed up. And then with the bikes, there weren't really the safety issues because people are used to riding bikes. And we've got bike lanes and people don't ride, And so I guess I would say maybe cut us a little bit of slack for this one coming first, only because it had about a 4-month head start on the other one. The other one will be coming back, I'm sure, very soon. As a matter of fact, myself, the mayor, and Councilmember Keating just had a meeting a few days ago about things we could do in the interim. One of the things that will help with this, which you mentioned, and I agree and I support, is that $0.06 fee will get you a long way towards education, towards policing, towards signage, towards media outreach, but all that takes money. Happily, the scooter companies may end up giving us the money to make their scooters safer. And then the last thing I would say is I've actually talked to the police chief. We have issued some tickets, not as many as I personally would like, because we have sort of a shoehorned rule that can be applied right now in the interim until the other committee comes back. And it is basically, I think I may have sent it to you, or you may have sent it to me even. And that is, you can ride them on a street where the speed limit's under 25 miles an hour. You can ride them in the bike lane, and you cannot ride them on the sidewalk, and you cannot ride them in the street if the speed limit's over, I want to say 25 or 35 miles an hour without a bike lane. Obviously, there's some issues with that because you take a road like Rural that is over 25 miles an hour and has no bike lane, which means in theory, if it was enforced as written, nobody could ride a scooter on Rural at all anywhere right now. And so one of the difficulties that the work group's going to have is trying to figure out this combination of infrastructure and law and rule to figure out how to make them work in a way with reasonable safety. And as a final note, I get it. We could have done what you're saying. ASU did it, right? They said, look, we're going to take thousands of them or hundreds of them and impound them, and then we're going to write the rules, and then we're going to have you quit impounding them. We could have done it in the reverse way.
Made a lot of money off that, too.
I have no idea. Like, ASU doesn't open their books to me, but they did it in the reverse, just like you said, and we could have done that. And for good or bad, that was the policy decision we made at the time. I really appreciate you coming and speaking, though.
Councilmember Keating?
Thank you, Mayor. Lucky you. You get all the council members to address your comments.
I'm not sure I like that, but all right.
No, it's your lucky day. Yeah, I just kind of want to echo on what the mayor and Councilmember Granville said. There is a safety working group that has been working since the summer, and it did start as a bike safety working group. And we were kind of blindsided by the sudden appearance of the scooters, so we kind of switched gears and moved over to that. We got to do something about these scooters. But I can, I think I can speak for everyone up here that, we take the safety of our residents very, very seriously. And I know Councilmember Navarro and the mayor and I are in that safety working group, and we're meeting next week, in fact, and I'm hoping to finalize our safety recommendations around the scooters. And we're talking about things like a speed limit. The helmets, for example, that's a state law, which, that requires helmets. We could have a law that also required helmets, but that does exist. They should be wearing helmets today. I understand that most of them don't. And the insurance aspect too, we're dealing with tonight as well.
You're thinking about insurance?
Yeah, oh yeah, I have a whole sheet of stuff. I'm going to talk about insurance in a little bit, which I encourage you to stay for because it's very exciting stuff. But I just wanted to.
What time will that be? Actually?
It will be coming up here pretty quickly. Right. So I just want, what, we heard you. I saw the post you're referring to on Nextdoor. Bad on us for not communicating that there is a separate group looking at these issues as well. But this is not the end-all, be-all for scooter regulations in Tempe. It's just the first iteration of what we're going to do, but safety is going to come shortly thereafter. Thank you.
I hope so. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next is Candy Rapper.
Good evening. I was one of the respondents on Nextdoor, and that's how I got involved in this. I'm glad to hear that you're already working on safety, because that's pretty much what I'm going to talk about. My name is Candy Rapper. I live at 237 East Broadmoor. On Tuesday, October 30th, my husband and I attended a forum which discussed the future transportation needs of Tempe's urban core. The evening was really informative, very interesting, and our input was welcomed. Although the purpose of the forum was the future, attendees were very focused on the future safety in the city core and the current problems with the scooters. This was the first time that the problem really came and became part of us. We didn't realize that the scooters were a problem. But fast forward a couple of weeks when my husband and I were in Portland, and while being there, we're advocates of public transportation, so we used it. We used the rail, we used the bus, we used the trolley, and we walked. We saw great green swaths where the bikes knew where to be. We didn't see any scooters. Now, Portland, they think of themselves as very progressive, but no scooters. When we returned to Tempe, walking in our neighborhood, as we have for 23 years, we were forced off the sidewalk by a scooter and a driver who would not yield. So the three of us, my husband and I and my dog, ended up in the street. Now, where we live, our streets, I think, are going to get repaved once we get the water mains done. But so you're not going to waste any money paving them now. So there are huge holes. You can lose a little dog in some of these holes. Anyway, why didn't we see any scooters in Portland? Well, apparently they studied the debacle that happened in San Francisco and other cities and decided to get out in front of that. So I'm kind of leaving you guys off the hook. Scooters were permitted in a small area, which is underserved by public transportation. But for only 4 months. The rules were in place. The rules were in place and the consumers had to be compliant. Rules like helmets, maximum speed 15 miles an hour, no sidewalk riding, minimum age 16, driver's license. The city provided workshops and education. The provisional program ended November 18th, 2018. All the companies picked up all 2,000 within a week. Those e-scooters were gone. Portland is promising to share the data gathered and to seek input from the public through public meetings concerning their e-scooters. But will they come back? Will they be reinstated? The common belief is no, because consumer compliance is needed for the sidewalks to be safe. And I have a red light. Well, thank you for your time.
No, you can wrap up if you have a, if you need, wrap up.
Gonna wrap
like
it
a
up?
sentence. Yeah, if you can just wrap it up.
Okay, so our little city, I want to get this in. Our
But
little
it needs to
city
be like a sentence, not a paragraph.
Oh, no, a paragraph.
No, 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 I can't do it.
Okay, the demographics show that 25% of our population is 45 on or over. And we're the ones who stay here. We're the ones that live here. We're the ones who make this our home. And we're the ones that are being annoyed by this. Okay? So think
Very
about
much for
that.
your comment.
Thank you for
Thank you.
the opportunity.
All right, next is Thomas Edwards.
Good evening, Mayor, Tempe City Council. My name is Thomas Edwards. I live in Tempe, sorry, not Phoenix, Tempe. And my concern is, of course, safety and scooters being on the sidewalks. I don't think they should be there. I've had personal experiences of walking, going to football games and almost being hit and so forth. I think they should be on bike paths or treated like they used to have, if there isn't a bike path, ride close to the curb. I remember in the old days, the bicyclists would ride with traffic. I don't know if that's still regulated, and pedestrians would walk against it. And so basically, I just think they should be off the sidewalks and on the road for that. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Next is Josh Gray.
This is wireless. Oh, this is fancy. Look at this. I used to work in City of Oakland. We still have the old school ones.
Still 1980s look.
Yeah.
Well, I've already said my name, so it's fine. My name is Josh Gray. I'm with Spin Electric Scooter Company, San Francisco, California. Thank you, City Council, for discussing shared mobility tonight and for allowing me to provide comment. Again, my name is Josh Gray, and I'm the Director of Government Partnerships for Spin. Spin is a leader in shared mobility industry. We are committed to working with cities we operate in. That means we never launch without cities' permission. A unique approach that we call our partnership promise. When we partner with cities, we work diligently to meet shared goals around safety, organization, responsiveness, and equitable services. SPIN understands the city's need and time to develop the regulatory process for scooters, and we support our cities in taking the time to determine how scooters share can be best for mobile opportunities for cities. We understand the considerations you're making in this process, and we'd like to offer our support as needed in discussing best practices around regulations, designing scooter shared mobility sizes, and utilizing emerging tools that are making scooters share systems more impactful and manageable more than ever. Electric scooters are proving to be a great tool for reducing traffic congestion by replacing car trips, creating new connections to transit, and bolstering tourism, all of which can improve the well-being of sustainability of the city of Tempe. We truly understand your concerns of safety and understand the importance of collaborative and not combative transportation for first and last mile. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Katie Stevens. Please state your name and place of residence for the record.
Good evening. My name is Katie Stevens. I am from Salt Lake City, Utah. I'm the Senior Director for Government Relations for Lime. In short, I just want to thank you for the time. I want to thank you for your commitment to creating a sustainable, accessible, and affordable system of shared active transportation. The city has in no small way been an innovative leader on urban transportation. It's been a lab, so to speak, a testing lab of these mobility devices, and one in which we wholeheartedly support and welcome regulation. I would be remiss if I didn't mention some of the data we found since we've been in Tempe. Since we've been here, we've had over 81,000 riders have used our scooters, which is astonishing, incredible. 452,000 rides have occurred since we launched. If we take Lime's national mode shift average, that means that approximately 24,000 Tempe riders made the choice to take a scooter over a car trip. That's substantial. That's really moving the needle. Obviously, safety is of utmost concern to us. Just listening to the residents' concerns tonight, we obviously strive for even better safety mechanisms. We look at safety from an aspect of the 3 E's: equipment, enforcement, and education. And we look forward to working with you on the additional safety aspects you're going to be working on, requirements, as well as with this license. While we're supportive of the large majority of the regulations in this license, we advanced to you, along with a couple of the operators, some concerns over the fee and a couple of the insurance and indemnity pieces, of which I understand there's an amendment that we support on the insurance piece, and then some amendments on the indemnity. So thank you for being responsive. When it comes to the per ride per scooter per day, the dollar per scooter per day, $1.06. You know, we're fundamentally looking at it's not the fee so much as it is the way it is assessed. So in our view, and I've got some time, in our view, it would be a per ride fee. It would be 10 cents per ride. And that is more appropriate based, we believe, on the utilization of the public right-of-way. A scooter just is constantly in motion. It's not utilizing the public right-of-way in the same sense that any sort of existing mechanism would exist today, a sandwich board or any sort of other business that might be utilizing it. The scooters just utilize it in a different way. And along with the fact that we will be providing some robust data to the city in the form of MDS, which is direct API data. The city will very easily be able to assess and audit scooters, scooter operators for that fee. So it's a dynamic system. We can talk about it more. You can ask me questions about it, but we'd love to see the 10-cent per ride fee and some amendments to the insurance indemnity piece.
Councilman Granville.
Yeah, you know, some terms have been used interchangeably. I just want to make sure it's clear. The $1.06 fee, it's not for using the right-of-ways, right? If I bought a scooter, just went on Amazon and bought one for $400 or $500 and rode it around, the city wouldn't charge me to use the bike lane, right? They wouldn't charge me to ride around. We're not charging you for your scooters riding around the city. We're charging you for staging them on a public space, right? The same way if you extended a sidewalk on Mill Avenue to make an extended patio, we would charge them to rent that space. If you started a hot dog stand, we would charge you for that hot dog stand. But it's got, just to make sure the distinction, we're not charging you for riding on the right-of-way. You can do that all day long. We're charging you for using the right-of-way as a rental space for free right now. Just to be clear, the distinction, because there's a pretty important legal distinction there.
Yeah, no, that's a really great point. I would say to that end, and I really appreciate that. You know, the staging, we obviously do stage them. The great thing about scooters versus bikes is they're picked up every night, right? And they're recharged, they have to be. And then they're staged, right? Restaged every morning and constantly moved around, right, depending on use. And that's how we really maximize ridership. That's how we maximize the first mile, last mile benefits of this product. But because we stage something, you know, our hope and our intent is that it's easily and quickly moved, right? We want it fully in motion. So although it is staged there, it doesn't stay there, right? So it's not staged and stays there. It constantly is moving. And so I think we're looking at, and would love to continue to talk about sort of the dynamic nature of that as it exists. Yeah.
Councilman Navarro.
Thank you, Mayor. Quick question. You stated that, you know, riders of scooters could be riding cars, but do you guys have a distinguish between scooter riders that were just walking or just riding the bikes who just choose to use the scooter now because it's there now, versus they're not really getting in the car, the impact is not there for the car? Is that data also distinguished?
It does, it does. And so we've done, we have a 2018 report that we just did. It's sort of a national survey. But there's also Portland data, which I love to use, which I can mention. We also have data per certain markets. But what it essentially says is about 30%. In Portland, it's more for visitors, about 42%, but specifically not focused on walking. So that shift from I would walk, otherwise, I'm going to take a scooter, otherwise walk. It's I'm going to take a scooter, otherwise would have taken a car. And that's a personal car, a Lyft, an Uber, or a taxi.
Councilmember Adams?
Yes, I'm very concerned about the safety of the scooters, and they're blocking the right-of-ways for the people in wheelchairs and whatnot. What steps are you committed to taking to improve the safety of the scooters?
Yeah. So as I mentioned, we look at the 3 E's, one being education. So on the front end, if we continue to improve upon this, I will not pretend that we have it all figured out. We too, as a company, continue to evolve and work on it. But basically what we do is we focus on in-app education. So making sure that riders, before they begin a ride, know how to park appropriately, how to ride appropriately. Obviously, in some cases, they're abusing the right to do that. And so that's when we look at things like enforcement. Sorry, moving back to education. It's not just in-app, but part of the license, part of our operating in Tempe should be part of going out in the community. That means meeting with students, going to the university, and educating them on what they should and should not be doing as far as riding, as well as residents and visitors, right? So doing our best to educate. We had a very robust Respect the Ride campaign. It's about a $3 million campaign, which focused a lot on helmet distribution as well. I know that was a topic. We wholeheartedly support helmets, and we gave away about 250,000 of them worldwide for that purpose. And if anyone wants a helmet, they can contact us. So education, helmet usage certainly. As far as getting in the way of the handicapped or creating that barrier, I would say we have some things. We have a tip detector, so we know when a scooter is tipped over. We can respond to that. We have now working on a new robust scooter, which will have more messaging in the scooter itself, so our display screen that will be able to detect where somebody is at, what somebody's doing, and shoot them messages in real time instead of having a phone that they may be trying to manipulate. We don't want that. That's not safe. And so people would be able to have the messages on the scooter themselves. So equipment, what did I say? Education and is how we're approaching it. And so again, there's a lot more we're doing, but those are the fundamentals.
And how long have you been in Tempe?
We've been in Tempe since 8 months. I'm looking at our general manager over there, about 8 months.
About 8 months. And how many community meetings have you had in Tempe?
I don't have the answer to that. I don't know. Yeah. But I can get you the answer. And certainly, would love to work with you and other community partners as we do to increase that number and to really, work within your districts to get the word out and to have those host those events and talk with people about education.
Thanks.
And how to maneuver.
Councilman Navarro.
Thank you, Mayor. Just real quick, I know you talked about education, you said media type of outreach. How robust of a media outreach? Because obviously you did an outreach with helmets and educating people on safety on helmets, but there's a real true safety on riding in the right direction, riding on sidewalks, riding in the bike lanes, right? A whole variety of things that could be said and done, and not only just from your group, but from all the groups that have scooters out there. Is there an approach or is there a combination of everyone working together to send out a message via media? I don't care if it's social media, but the television, things to educate. It's almost like the smoking commercials we see over and over again. If this is really real and it's going to be here for a while, I would imagine several companies out there will have the money to support such media, to support these safety habits.
Yeah, that's right. And so in places like Santa Monica, it could be even a billboard, it could be a wrap on a bus, it could be commercials, it could be, obviously we do a lot of social media, which really does appeal to, the younger population, you might find at the university. So, but it is obviously, we have a good portion of our riders that are over 40. And so we do our best to really, market and advertise and educate and cross platforms. So that's something we will and could absolutely do in Tempe, and with our fellow operators as we do in so many other cities, to work on sort of a collective campaign to do here to really get at those issues. That's a great idea.
Thank you. We got to have the speakers. Yes? Yes, Councilmember Redondo Savage.
Thank you, Mayor. Just really quick, thank you, Katie. And I just want to say thanks to all the vendors for being willing to sit down and have the dialogue and the conversation to try to figure out how we can move forward with this. And I know one of the things that we talk about in Valley Metro and when it comes to multimodal transportation is the first mile and the last mile and how important it is to give alternatives. So I can see there is definitely a place, but of course I think, I agree with the residents in the sense of having a lot of concerns. And I wanted to get some clarity in regards to when the scooters are picked up at night. Are they all picked up at night? I'm not sure if I quite got that. If they're fully charged, are they still picked up and restaged in the morning? Or are the ones that maybe are at 90%, do they stay out in the area, or are they actually restaged too?
Yeah, so it's my understanding they are picked up every night, but again, I will look to our general manager over there. He's nodding his head, and he can certainly come up and add some additional. But yes,
Okay.
if I'm sure there are some, Joshua wants to come down, he can help add some color to that.
And then I guess I would ask too, is there a magic number of scooters? Because obviously, I get it and I can really certainly appreciate business, and I think we're a very inclusive community and welcome all businesses here. But at the same time, I think we got to be kind of cognizant of oversaturating the market too, and the magic number of scooters, per vendor. And I noticed in a lot of this, there's not anything about a cap.
Yeah.
Did you talk about that? Any concerns about that? And is that,
Yeah. I have a sort of controversial view on it, I suppose. But in my view, it's, there are numerous ways to regulate. One is certainly, obviously, it's all performance-based, right? We as operators, we earn the right to be here. You're going to set the standards. We have to meet them. If we don't meet them, you can tell us to get out of your city. A way to do that is to ensure that you're establishing safety requirements and license regulations that really do require us to meet the letter of the law, and you would enforce that. What you're talking about in terms of a cap is something we've talked about in a number of other cities and are supportive of, which is a dynamic cap, which looks at an initial cap of scooters that's performance and utilization based. And if we get so many trips per vehicle per day, then you allow us the opportunity to increase our fleet. And if we meet performance standards, right? So it's fundamentally performance based, which makes sense from a lot of different perspectives. I think in terms of, obviously, we'd love to see that. I think where the city's at now, you've done so much work already, and the license regulations really do look really great, except for a few issues from our standpoint, that I think it's going to be very effective as it is. Is certainly if the council wanted to look at sort of the dynamic cap model, we'd be open to it.
And then, can I just answer the question about the batteries? So are they not all restaged? At what level does a battery go down and is it picked up by somebody?
Happy to clarify that for you.
Okay.
Please speak at the microphone.
Sorry, thank you.
Every night at 9 p.m. we do start collecting the scooters, and we do have a goal of 100% collected every evening, regardless of the battery threshold. Battery thresholds throughout the day we do monitor. So if there's vehicles, that have extensive use throughout the day, go lower, and let's say it's around 5-6 p.m. we think that there's a little bit of additional juice we can get out of those for the rest of the day. We do, but like I said, at the end of the evening, you would expect to see close to 100% of those scooters collected.
So the ones that basically maybe about 90% battery charge, there's a possibility that they're still out?
No, we would collect all of them. So I've been on the street, so we have teams essentially. So if you say use roll, for example, we have a map of every single scooter. We're not looking even at the battery life, and we're collecting each and every one of them regardless.
Councilmember Keating, then Councilmember Granville.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you. I just want to address some of the things that we've talked about, and you've heard, so I'll be repeating myself to you, but I just kind of want to, speak into the record about kind of how we got here. And, you've been a great partner, so has Bird. In my view, I think the scooters are definitely value added to the city. It goes, you mentioned 24,000 folks out of their cars riding scooters. That's obviously a very positive thing. I think the concern about the fee structure is one, we just had a meeting on this, and it costs the city hundreds of thousands of dollars to have the scooters here. And that's just, we just met on this the other day. So that's a concern of mine. I didn't realize exactly how much it was until the other day. But more importantly, a lot of the feedback we're getting from the community is that they're seemingly everywhere. They're not being kept up. You know, they're in front of my house. You know, they're at the parks. You know, and so when we were trying to discuss, you know, how exactly do we rein in the situation? How do we? And I'm very sensitive that, you know, we don't want like this hard cap, and that's kind of how it was with the bikes before the scooters were here. And I actually agree with that. I think, you know, the market should set exactly how many of these vehicles are in the city. So what we came back with is what we're calling a market-based cap, which there's X amount of scooter rides in the city per day. And that's regardless of the number of companies that there are here. So let's say there's 1,000 rides in the city of Tempe per day. Right now we have 2 companies in Tempe, so they're dividing up those rides. If we had 6 companies in Tempe, that's not going to produce 3,000 additional rides. It's just going to be a smaller market share for each individual scooter company. So a scooter company would then say, well, how do I make sure I'm getting more of these rides, right? I want more rides out of this limited pie of rides that they're all dividing up. Well, I think the obvious answer to that would be, I'm going to put more scooters there. So now whenever I walk down the street, there's 13 Keating scooters and only 2 Granville scooters. Odds are you'd be riding a Keating scooter, which would be a positive thing if you're Randy Keating. So, you know, we really wanted to look at how can we do this, and I think the dollar per day model really kind of gets us there, because that makes sure that there's not a scooter on the corner or on the sidewalk that's not being utilized. And I don't know how many rides it takes for a scooter to be profitable, but it's probably more than 1. You know, it's probably more than 2. So, you know, I think that this accomplishes that for us. It makes sure that not only is a scooter here, but it's being utilized, it's being ridden. And I want as many scooters as the market will support, and not one more. Because you heard the feedback we're getting, and this was actually pretty tame compared to the stuff that's been blowing up our inbox for the last 6 months. So, you know, I understand that, you know, the fee structure may not be exactly, you know, what you would like, and I've committed to you that the working group is definitely, you know, open to evaluating this and reassessing this in the future. But I don't think that an alternative solution to the problem of how do we keep the market from being oversaturated by any one company, I don't think an alternative solution to that issue is going to be any more favorable to the scooter companies as what this is. So I think this is kind of an experiment on our part to see, can we do this without really coming in and saying, look, there's this number of scooters and not one more. Because when we started all this, you know, it was just Bird and it was just Lime. I've been contacted by 3 different scooter companies since, all trying to come to Tempe. So we were not going to say, you know, Bird, you get your 500, and Lime, you get your 500, and Randy, you get your 500, Colby, you get your 500, because that's 2,000 scooters now when all we really wanted was 500. So I just don't see that really working out in a favorable way, because I think that the next inclination would just to be, look, there's going to be 500 scooters in Tempe, and if me and Colby bring our scooters, and that's less scooters for you, and who knows if they're getting ridden anyway. So I strongly feel that, you know, this market-based approach is not only, you know, beneficial to the companies and to the city, but it's a really kind of creative way of solving some of the issues that we keep seeing time and time again. So I just kind of I know I've said this to you before, but I just kind of wanted to read that into the record to, you know, why I'm supporting this and why the working group that I'm on, you know, brought this forward. Thank you.
Councilman Granville.
Thank you. Yeah, we're not trying to beat up on you. Keep in mind that there's a lot of other people that are watching it besides you. Just to reiterate a couple of things that Councilmember Keating said, I agree with all of it. You know, we originally did talk about, like, maybe we'll have a cap, but there's a couple of things I know. Number one, when government starts to try and figure out what the market wants, we get it wrong almost all of the time, right? The market is much better at knowing what the market wants than government is. And so to pick a number out of a hat, we've already done a disservice to our residents. We've either overguessed or underguessed. In either way, we've messed up, where the market knows what the market wants. Which then leads us to the next question. Well, how do we keep this working at an optimal number, as Councilmember Keating talks about? And I appreciate the 10 cents a ride thing, But here's the problem, and everyone who's in Tempe knows this, I think in their heart. The bikes that were out, they weren't out to be ridden. They were out to advertise that bikes were available to be ridden. They were billboards. They were just billboards, right? And so one of the things that we very much worried about was, let's say you get kicked out of Tucson and you've got 2,000 scooters to figure out what to do with. We don't want you to think, well, we'll just add 2,000 scooters to Tempe because now we're 60% of the market because we just, and it's cheaper than storage, and maybe some of them will get ridden. And now we've got 2,000 scooters dropped here because it's just, we got scooters laying around. At $1 a day per scooter to drop them off in the city, you'd think longer and harder about doing that. And to go to Councilmember Arredondo Savage's point, if we brought up Razor, they would have a different answer to your question. Razor does not pick up their scooters unless they have been run down below, I believe, 25%, which creates a huge issue because if I ride it home and I leave it in my front yard or I leave it in my neighbor's front yard and it's at 30%, nobody's going to come to my neighborhood to ride it. I'm not going to ride it again because it's only at 30%, but nobody's going to pick it up because they don't want to come to a neighborhood. It's like Bird and Lime has not generally done that, as we've seen it on the committee at least, but Razor has.
Vice Mayor Cubey.
Well, to that point about determining the responsible numbers of scooters, isn't there some kind of algorithm you have in your business that looks at populations of cities and figures out, like on an average day? I realize the 4th of July would be different. We have an average for how many scooters per 100 people?
Yeah, I mean, it sure does, right? And the longer we're in this space, right, we get a better sense of what it means to be profitable over time. We have utilization rate we try to hit, right? So many trips per vehicle per day. It doesn't make us any money if scooters sit out there unridden, right? And that's our approach that we take, and we're getting more and more, what do I want to say, careful, sensitive to the fact of our inventory in a market and what that is doing as far as revenue.
You have a formula,
right?
Population formula that you have to have
There is a population formula we would use, but we really don't know the dynamics of ridership until we get into a city. For example, like a really dense city, obviously that makes a lot of sense. Chicago would be high utilization. In a city that's maybe a little smaller, maybe a little more suburban, but has a university, looks like it could be promising. We don't know what the ridership there would be. So there is an algorithm, certainly calculations, but we never know until we're there. We've been in Tempe some time. I would just say, from the per ride fee standpoint, for us, it's not really about dollars. Obviously, we like to see cost recovery with the cities we work with, right? So a fee that is based on cost recovery that has a reasonable business fee, we're absolutely happy to pay it. We would really like and would love to, if we could all get a commitment from council to take a look at the fee structure and make our case for it in more of a working group situation, to really have a detailed conversation, maybe bring it back in the next 30 or 60 days would be great if there were that commitment to at least taking a look and considering that, because we'd really like to have an open conversation about why the per ride makes sense for the city and for us.
Thank you.
Again, I'm not wedded to 10 cents. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Sit down.
Thank you.
I'm sorry. Sir, before you leave, could you state your name for the record, please?
Absolutely. Joshua Miller, General Manager with Lime.
Thank you.
Next is Taylor Strand.
Good evening, Mayor Mitchell and members of council. My name is Taylor and I work on the government relations team at Razor. I wanted to first thank you for the opportunity to have participated in your shared active transportation program. We appreciate that Tempe forged the path in Arizona for new mobility technology that is sustainable, eco-friendly, and affordable. Razor is proud to serve the riders of Tempe and plans to continue to do so. However, there are a few components in the proposed regulatory framework that we'd be grateful if council reexamines and potentially revises. The $1.06 per day vehicle fee for use of public right-of-way is extremely high and difficult to track. Instead, a 10-cent per ride fee, which is what we're recommending, would be a utility charge that is trackable through the robust MDS data we provide, pretty much what Katie was stating earlier. We also strongly urge the city to work with the operators to amend the indemnification language in the regulations. As written, it forces operators to take on financial risk created by the city's own conduct, of which we have no control. We know that this new form of alternate mobility has posed numerous challenges to you and your constituents. We support regulations that enhance rider and pedestrian safety, address the issues of indemnification, and allow for cost recovery, but in a manner that also allows our industry to be sustainable and best serve the residents of Tempe. Thank you for your consideration. We look forward to continually working with you to provide accessible mobility options in this great city.
Thank you. Next, I have Lewis. I did not put a last name. Lewis? All right, next is Lauren Boyce. Welcome. Please state your name and place of residence for the record.
Good evening. My name is Lauren Boyce, and I was born here in Tempe, and I live just down the street. And I'm a charger for Bird. I speak for myself, not the company. First, I wanted to give everybody a little bit of a rundown of just what charging is. Basically, it seems like there's a lot of misconceptions. Basically, we have a map. When the battery runs dead on the scooter, it shows up on the map. Anybody that's contracted with the company can go then and pick it up, take it home and charge it. They do not get their power from leaning against anything. They pretty much come off the street every night at 10:03. The company makes a lot of changes. They're always trying to improve, but up until a couple of weeks ago, everything was pulled off the street at 10:03. Now there's a few odds and ends. I'm not sure what's up with those. Maybe it's a glitch. But my husband and I have been solely supporting ourselves on Bird for the last several months since my husband was in an accident. And I really believe that these scooters have a positive impact on our city. They're easy, cheap transportation. They're eco-friendly. They get vehicles off the roads. They're fun, of course. They provide job opportunities. As I mentioned, my husband and I have been supporting ourselves and our family for months this way. And I mean, I understand that there are accidents that happen with these scooters, and but I mean, we don't blame the car companies or the vehicles for drunk drivers. We don't blame Coke for cans in the streams and rivers. It's the responsibility of the individual who's using the tool, and it's a big change, and it's a lot for people to get used to. I mean, I'm sure that once upon a time when vehicles hit the road, people said, you know, they're dangerous. They're going to scare the horses. But, you know, we worked through it. We made them better. We tried and tried and tried. We've got a pretty good system now. There's still flaws with traffic, but we're still trying. And I'm completely okay with some regulations for the scooters. If they're a legitimate business, then getting a business license shouldn't be a big problem for them. You know, they've already got the thing, minors are not supposed to be riding them. I see minors riding them all the time. I try to tell their parents that, you know, you really shouldn't do that unless, you should be wearing a helmet. But I've been riding these things for months, and I've never been in an accident. I believe that's because I'm a responsible individual. And
Thank you. Your
that's
time is
about
up.
it.
Thank you. Councilman Granville, then Councilman Keating.
Yeah, so can I ask you, so the companies, as you've heard, they're pretty fussy about that $1.06 a scooter a day.
Yeah.
Can I ask you I don't mean to pry too much, I'm just trying to get some more information. Which companies do you charge for?
Bird.
Just Bird?
Just Bird.
Okay, what's the dollar amount that they pay you to charge, or the range or whatever, per scooter?
Well, they start out at $5, and if the scooter is lost or somebody can't find it, they slowly go up in price, which gives people the initiative to track the scooter down and find it. And we have on our map a little thing that tells you how long it's been since the scooter's been ridden. And unless it's been lost or stolen, it's never more than a couple of days.
So what's the high end of what a scooter could?
$20. They can go up to $20
So I think
for
that's
a lost
part of
scooter.
my confusion in some ways. I think the other scooter companies are roughly the same, would be my guess. It's a little confusing to me why, if they're paying $5 to $20 to have them charged, why $1.06 is suddenly the deal breaker.
Well, from my point of view as a charger, I'm on the low end of the stick here. They're dealing with the big numbers, but what it sounds like to me is if they have to balance out all that, I'm going to wind up with a smaller paycheck. Those birds are no longer going to be $5 on the map. They're going to be $1, $2.
$2, yeah.
They're not going to be something that I can support my family by charging.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Councilmember Keating.
Thank you, Mayor. I mean, you might not know this, but I'm just going to ask you because you're up here and you're affiliated with Bird. Isn't it the case that you have to have a driver's license to rent one?
Absolutely.
That's what I thought. Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Next speaker is Mr. Glenn Starr. Please state your name and place of residence for the record.
Hello, my name is Glenn Starr. I've been a resident of Tempe since 1998. I've been a licensed massage therapist for 8 years, and I own a small recycling company. And when I got in the accident that my wife mentioned, we saw an opportunity with Bird, and it pretty much saved our entire family. And the only real fear I have with you guys imposing this $1.06 fee is that it's going to be conveyed to me and my family. That's where the sounds of that 10% fee being conveyed to the consumer is a real appealing idea to me, because I stand to lose a significant amount of my purchasing power just to be able to take care of myself. Because now that I'm recuperated from the accident, but I'm kind of it's become a habit now. It's decent money, and I do well at it. I collect 30 to 40 scooters a night, and have them charged and put out there in an orderly fashion. I would recommend maybe thinking about having specific locations that these scooters are allowed to park, maybe small lined areas or something like that. And I'm real for the safety issues that you guys have been talking about, and I hope that further meetings that you guys have really go into that, because I don't feel like it's safe to ride them on the sidewalk at all. I got my first scooter in 2000. It was a gas-powered one, and I quickly learned the laws of the area, and I adhered to them. And to see the way the scooters are being treated now is completely different than what I was accustomed to when I was a sole rider on the street riding my little gas-powered scooter. So I understand the leniency, but I wouldn't hold it against you guys for trying to regulate that as far as being on the sidewalks and stuff like that. I'd be for it. But I really do, I'm really wary of the fee, because I really do feel like it's going to have a large impact on me as the charger.
Thank you. We have a question. Vice Mayor Cubey.
So the fee, though, and it's $1.06, not $1.60 a day, it's not aimed to generate funds for the city and for the city to profit. It's aimed to put right back into education and enforcement, with public safety being concerned, and it's a concern you share. How else would the city do that? Should the city spend money from its general fund for education and enforcement, or should we somehow ask the scooter companies to contribute by paying $1.06 a scooter?
Well, I saw it about 3 or 4 weeks back. I'm not sure if it was an anomaly, but I haven't seen it since. I saw one of your motorcycle officers sitting in a high-traffic area, pretty much stopping every scooter rider that came by and issuing them what it seemed to be as a citation. He might have just been giving them a tongue lashing. But
And that's costing our city money right now without any kind of compensation.
Absolutely. No, like I said, I would be wholeheartedly for a 10% fee that would be imposed on the individual riding it. Me as a charger, I do believe that that dollar fee would be conveyed directly to me and not the company.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Next is Jared Gardner. Jared? Anyone? Bueller? No, I'm just kidding. All right, Laura Herrera, please come on down. State your name and place of residence for the record.
Oh, top. My name is Laura Herrero. I've lived in Tempe for over 30 years, specifically in north of the Tempe Public Library. And it's a very diverse neighborhood with many young families and many older people. There are many people in my neighborhood who have wheelchairs or walkers or you know, push baby carriages, and I see these scooters blocking the sidewalk all the time. And for some people, that's very difficult to move, to get out of their way. And I don't know what the people in wheelchairs do, but I see this all the time. I have many neighbors who've had close calls with these scooters just coming out of nowhere, usually going the wrong way. And, you know, it seems to me like even if we have regulations, I don't trust the riders. I mean, you can read an agreement and like, you know, you just don't look at it and click, I've read it. And I think that many people who spoke here, other Tempe residents, have made excellent points. But I just want to say, I think these things, they go too fast. And I don't trust the riders. If we're going to have other shared transportation, which I've met many people who are positive about this, then it needs to be confined to things that don't just go so fast. And that's all that I wanted to say. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay, that's all the cards I have. I will now turn it back over to my council colleagues for any comments or discussion on item 5C2. Or a motion on item 5C. Wait. Oh, you have I need that card. It doesn't help me if you're holding on to it. I didn't know that you wanted to speak. Right up here. Right here. Please state your name and place of residence for the record.
Hi, my name is Robert Haug, and I actually live in the city of Mesa, but the scooter companies have brought me to Tempe for basically one of my primary sources of income now. And first, I wanted to thank Tempe, first of all, for not jumping off the gun and just kicking everything out of here when they showed up, for working with the companies and helping to establish what is a startup technology. I believe Tempe's going in the right direction with your regulation. There has to be regulation in order for this type of company to endure and go on and beyond the length of time the bike share companies were around. If we don't have safe places for our customers to travel, if we don't have regulations regarding where they can ride, what they're required to do, what the responsibilities of the companies that are here in Tempe plying their wares and offering services, it's not going to last. I made the joke with several of my friends that I think our great-grandparents went through the same dilemma when they were worried about those newfangled automobiles scaring the horses that were going down the streets. I see this as the very start of the technology for the ride share. I think if you look back in 10 years from now, you're going to see scooters on the front of buses for the last mile. You got to walk to your house because the bus stop wasn't close enough. You're going to see maybe instead of having all these nests or pods or whatever the companies want to call them scattered around, maybe inconveniencing some people, they don't want them on their property. Maybe we're going to have some type of a vending machine for scooters on the corner, or a tower system, or some type of a docking system that's established and that all the companies have to follow the regulations. As far as the number of scooters, the market will bear that out. The companies can relocate scooters from dead zones, and we have a lot of dead zones where sometimes it seems like it's a scooter parking lot because they don't have any other places to put them. There are a lot of scooters between all the companies in town, and sometimes you can walk down Mill Avenue and it seems like there's 300 scooters between University and 3rd Street. Those need to be relocated. I do work with primarily Bird and Lime, and I can tell you both companies are very responsive. I've worked with your chief of, not the chief of police, but the gentleman in charge of special events, Sergeant Bolson. I've worked with him on several events, relocating scooters away from the Tempe Town Lake Parade, away from ASU games so they don't count up scorers. We will actually actively come in and pick up between... Your destination is on the left. Sorry, I didn't know where I was going somewhere. We will actively come in and pick up anywhere between 100 to 250 scooters and relocate them out of the area. So when the crowds are coming out of the game, people aren't staggering, going around scooters and trying to make their way. I do feel something has to be done as far as some designated spots to keep them away from blocking sidewalks or something for the handicapped, because that is something we have to work on. But I know recently, as in working for Bird, I've been sent out probably 15 times in the last 4 days just to go move a scooter that was reported as blocking. Sorry, and did I need to say my name?
Yeah, no, your time is up.
Okay, I'm
That's
sorry.
all.
Okay, thank you.
Councilman Granville.
Thank you, Mayor. I have one really quick question since you're working for two companies. One of the complaints that we've heard is for the chargers that are they're parking, whether in a bus pullout, in a handicap spot, because they're like, I'm only going to be here for 2 minutes, and I'm just going to put it right up by the thing. Can you talk to the interactions you've had with Bird or Lime about making sure that its chargers don't do that? Like, did you get any training? Was there an explanation?
Okay, I'm going to be totally honest with you. Training is
That may not be a good idea.
Training is light from both companies. Some of the companies, it's essentially, we're going to send you some chargers, have at it. You're expected to watch the help desk question videos, something like that. I'm not trying to throw either company under a bus or anything like that, but it is. I got no official formal training. Bird a little bit. When they first opened up, they had a couple of meetings where they explained to everybody how things work. But other than that, it's here's some charger. If you got any questions, go read the help desk. I feel that the situation could be greatly remedied by maybe require a charger certification. Maybe they have to go through a day-long course, a half-day-long course. They have to have a license to pick them up. That would be something you could license the chargers. You know, you have to license chargers so that they know what they're supposed to do. They know where they're supposed to park. They know how they're supposed to pick up. They know where they're supposed to place them. But like I said, this is starting and everybody's just learning. And I really appreciate you guys taking the time to let the thing develop.
Councilman Navarro.
Just real quick question on the scooters that are thrown into canals or water. Do you guys have any location on where they're at, or is that pretty much dead?
The way the GPS location works, you'll get a last known location. So there's a few cases. We can see it like in the middle of Tempe Town Lake Bridge that goes from the Art Center over to the other side. There's quite a few dots right in the middle. We've been told, as far as for picking up for Bird, we don't handle those. As a charger, we don't handle those. And there's been some people in the social media and things saying that Bird told us to charge this scooter after we dried it out. I guarantee you Bird or Lime, none of these companies would tell their chargers to charge a scooter that has been in the lake, to charge a scooter that has been in a pool. It's going to open them up to too many liabilities. Matter of fact, Bird's response right now, I can speak to that a little bit better, is to actually send a special team that they have to pick up damaged scooters because they're handled a certain way, because there is the potential for a problem until they're, you know, disassembled and deactivated, right? So, like, again, a thank you very much for not flying off and just kicking everybody out, and I appreciate you guys going through the motions of establishing the guidelines for this to go forward.
Thank you.
Right, thank you.
All right. With that, I look to my colleagues. Any other comments or discussions on item 5C2? Councilmember Redondo Savage.
Thank you, Mayor. I just got a couple questions. I'm not really sure who to ask this to. And Andrew, maybe this is a question in regards to, there was something in the document that relates to its requirement 2.10. And it's about any non-staged that are parked in a location which causes a safety hazard. But it basically says, if it's parked in a single location beyond the 24-hour restaging requirement, will be relocated by city staff. An operator will be charged a $100 relocation fee. How do we know? How does the city know? Do we have that information and that data to be able to go pick that up, or will that be reactive to a phone call? We know that?
Thanks. I mean, I'm thinking that the best way we would know that is from information we would either have directly, because we've seen the scooter in the same location for 24 hours or more, or from, you know, a residential complaint that's been verified, something along those lines. I mean, I don't know the degree to which it's been worked out or will ever be worked out, that we would have some, you know, co-shared GPS or tracking abilities with the companies. I don't know if that's ever been discussed, quite frankly. But short of that, I don't know how, other than actual on-site viewing by either ourselves or by residents, how we'd be able to ascertain if it's been 24 hours or not.
Well, I mean, my thought is, I think it's just something that we need to think about, because I do believe that there are some that are left in our neighborhoods a little bit longer than we probably, I mean, I've seen them myself and in my own neighborhood. So something to kind of think about. And, you know, I will just say, first and foremost, thank you to the working group, because I know this has been kind of a contentious topic, but I really do appreciate your due diligence and bringing the stakeholders to the table to really have some good dialogue and discussion. And I think, you know, we all said it, nothing's really perfect moving forward. But this is our first attempt to be able to get our arms around it and create some good guidelines that we can all agree on and move forward. But, you know, a couple things that I think we need to kind of continue to make sure are in the forefront. And I look forward to hearing from our safety group, because I think that is one thing that we consistently hear, the importance of making sure that everybody is safe from every perspective. Because we have definitely seen a lot of people being really reckless on those scooters, and we need to make sure that I think they're firstly educated to be able to know how to ride, where to park them, because I think what we find is, and I will say this too, since the working group has started, the staging of the scooters has really improved. I've seen them actually be a little bit more uniformed in the right areas, not in the middle of the sidewalk. So I thank you for however that happened. I think that's really good. But it really comes down to the user and the rider, and making sure too that they're responsible and that they are knowledgeable of what those rules and regulations are and what their expectations are. So they actually put away, because I think we pride ourselves on being a very clean and neat, tidy city, and I think we want to continue to keep that up. But we can't do it unless we have some dollars to be able to educate. And in order to educate, you got to make sure that we're able to enforce these things that we set forth, which don't come without a price tag, and we know that. So I don't think we're in it to make a lot of money, and I think Vice Mayor Kuby mentioned this earlier. What we want to do is just make sure we recoup enough money so we can educate and we can enforce, because those are the things that are really going to change behaviors and hopefully create some type of symmetry, some type of excitement within the idea of being able to utilize scooters, hopefully on a daily basis. So again, I appreciate the work of the working group. I really look forward to the safety aspect. I think that's really going to be important. I kind of wrote an acronym down because I thought it was kind of funny, of like the things that I thought were really important, which was safety, education, enforcement, parking, and staging, which created like SEEPs. I don't know. I think my third grade teacher would be so proud that I created that. But, and Mr. Bartel, I have to tell you, because you don't really get an opportunity to say thank you to educators that have positively impacted your life. And because Mr. Bartel is here, I have to tell you, when people ask me about going to elementary school, I always say one of my favorite and most incredible teachers was Mr. Bartel. So thank you, Mr. Bartel, for all the years that you put forward for this community. Thank you very much for that. So I'm just going to give you a hand because I can.
Thank you, Ms. Bartel.
Again, so I look forward to the work moving forward. And I do think that this is something that we are going to need to evaluate, because I know it's not perfect, and I do support the idea of if the working groups, I will leave it up to the working group if that's something that they so choose to do. I will certainly 100% support that. I think because it's new and different, and we're kind of looking at uncharted waters here, to be able to evaluate it in the near future would probably be a good idea.
Mr. Mayor, just real quickly, as a point of clarification to Councilmember Arredondo Savage's question, we will be having data sharing from the companies. We'll have their live data in terms of where scooters are, and our staff will have that, and we'll be able to track that over time.
Councilmember Keating?
Thank you, Mayor. I have some comments, and I also have amendments, but I'll wait till after other council members speak to introduce those. I just kind of want to, I want to thank the scooter companies, of course. You guys have been great partners in this process, and I want to thank, the individuals that came and spoke to us today and expressed their concerns around the safety issues, which we all hear, and we will be bringing back additional regulations around the safety issue in the near future. Staff has been fantastic on this. Marilyn and Brianne and Elizabeth, were great in shaping this, and it was a long and somewhat contentious process at times. but I'm really happy with what we've come back with. And, you know, to echo Councilmember Arredondo Savage's, you know, point, I remain open to working with the scooter companies to, you know, this is an experiment. We are in kind of uncharted areas here, and we're trying to figure out, trying to strike a correct balance between the scooter companies and the value that they provide the city, but also make sure that the city is made whole on some of the, you know, the challenges and costs that are associated with the scooters being here. So, you know, no one's trying to make money. It's not about that. No one wants the scooters to leave. I certainly would be very disappointed if that happened. I like the bikes, which I understand is an unpopular thing to say. But, you know, it's needed in this town, and we need that last half mile and first half mile solution. Anytime someone's out of their car, that's value added to the city. So, you know, I'm very pleased with the scooters and their willingness to be here. You know, offering us those alternative transportation methods, I think will play a big role in Tempe as it continues to grow, and it will continue to grow, assuming the economy doesn't completely collapse, which fingers crossed on that one, right? You know, so I just want to, you know, I guess that's really it. I just want to say thank you to those that are involved. Thank you for caring enough to come here and express your concerns, and staff was great, and my colleagues have been great on this. And I think this is something that we can work with and build on moving forward. So that's it.
Councilman Navarro.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, just real short, it's all been said. I want to thank our residents for coming out and speaking on this. I know that's been a big concern about our scooters and what we're doing and how we're doing it, and also the safety issue on that. And just as Councilmember, what's your name? Keating often replied, yeah, we are taking a look at the safety. We're going to make sure that we have these scooters safe. Education is going to be highly important of this thing, and really getting the message out through multimedia facets. That's going to be another way of driving that. That's where this money comes from. I, like everything else, I'm open for changes. I'm open for whatever the scooter company comes up. If this $6 does not work out, if there's another way of going about it better, great. The bottom line is we're using that money to make a better value of the resources, better the use of those scooters and the safety of those scooters, I want to assure you. So all has been set up here, but all and everybody who spoke, thank you for coming up here and let us know your concerns.
Councilmember Adams.
Yes, education is the key, and I'm troubled that no public meetings were known to the scooter company that came up and discussed this. I also want to thank the working group on this, taking it on. You guys did a great job. And I would just ask you to address the safety concerns and bring those forward as fast as possible. I want everyone to have a safe walking experience on the sidewalks, or if they're in wheelchairs, to be able to do that in a safe manner and not have to worry about getting hit by scooters.
Councilmember Cubie, Vice Mayor Cubie.
Thank you to the working group for all their diligence and hard work. I do have a couple of concerns that could maybe be dealt with in the future. I don't want to derail the process, and I'll be supporting the resolution. But one is, we've heard from a few HOAs, and they would like us to include a prohibition against staging in HOA right-of-ways. We know legally we can't do that, but I think as part of our education process to our neighbors and residents, we should let them know the process if they do choose to prohibit staging on their HOA. I think that's an important part of our communication to our residents. And then the concern I have about equity, I realize that, and kudos to the scooter companies for each offering an equity program. Generally, that can be a half off the unlock fee, or half off a per mile fee, or both those elements. And right now, all the scooter companies are offering that. My concern is if it ends up there's a division of the wealth here, and it's not as profitable as they might like, that they might end those equity programs. So I just want us to keep our eye on that and make sure that that's communicated to the public so they know it's out there. But we need to really keep a close eye, because I would hate to see that go away, and that's a concern I have. Another concern, and you might have an idea for this, Randy, is a mechanism for evaluating these guidelines. And I don't know if we're going to look at it 6 months from now, a year, but I would like to know if there's going to be a process to evaluate where we are and if we find the guidelines have been successful. And because it might be that we want to look at developing an RFP, and we look at the histories of the different scooter programs, their safety records, and perhaps we could consider in the future, after we evaluate, of doing an RFP and choosing the top 3 companies, the ones that have performed the best, that's been the most customer satisfaction, that have had the best safety records, et cetera. But with that, I will support it, and I thank you for all your hard work.
Anybody else? Councilmember Keating.
Thank you, Mayor. I have some amendments. I'd like to make a motion to amend 3 different requirements and 3 different documents. So I'll just start that process now, right? It says, all right. So requirement 1.3, I want to change, after the first sentence, I want to add, these indemnification requirements shall be limited by the city's gross negligence or willful misconduct as established by a court or competent jurisdiction, and then strike the rest of the paragraph. My second,
I have to second that, Mayor. The amendment?
He's got more.
Okay.
More. Got a couple more. And I move to amend the right-of-way use shared active vehicle transportation vehicle license insurance requirements as follows. So the general commercial general liability insurance limit of not less than strike 2 million and replace that with just $1 million for each occurrence, and add an umbrella or excess liability coverage with a limit of no less than 5 million for each occurrence. Strike with 4 million general aggregate limit, and the remainder of the paragraph stays the same. This is feedback we've gotten from the companies that would be more satisfactory to them. It's more in line with some of our peer cities as far as the requirements for insurance licenses.
But more importantly, I think our city attorney, our legal counsel advised us to do this as well.
Fair.
What he's proposing?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Our legal
All right.
advised us for this.
Yeah. And that was in section 3A. 3B, workers' compensation. I'm just going to read the paragraph. The operator shall carry workers' compensation insurance to cover obligations imposed by the federal and state statutes having jurisdiction of operator employees engaged in the performance of services in the state of Arizona, strike, and employer's liability insurance of not less than $100,000 for each incident, $100,000 disease for each employee, and $500,000 disease policy limit. Continuing on with the existing wording, in case services are subcontracted, the operator will require the sub-operator to provide workers' compensation under the same conditions as for operator, strike, and employer's liability to at least the same extent as provided by the operator. And finally, my last amendment, I move to amend the release of liability, assumption of risk, and indemnification agreement, shared active transportation vehicle operator as follows. Again, I'm just going to read the paragraph. Indemnification, hold harmless, and defense. Operator promises to indemnify, hold harmless, and defend the release parties against any and all claims to which Section 3 of this agreement applies. Add, this indemnification requirement shall be limited by the release party's gross negligence or willful misconduct as established by the court of competent jurisdiction. Strike, including claims for the released party's own negligence, and the remainder of the paragraph stays the same.
And if you have that in writing, I think we should.
She's got a copy of it, yep.
All right. Now, all we're doing is there's a motion to amend the existing agreement as stated by Councilmember Keating. It's been seconded by Councilmember Granville. Councilmember Navarro.
Mayor, I just want to make it clear, our legal attorney does approve of these changes, for the record.
Yes, Councilmember Navarro, I do.
Okay, thank you. No, I just want them to know this.
All right. So there's been a motion and second on the amendment to the existing agreement under item 5C2. Please vote on the amendment. I can't. That motion passes 7-0.
Fair.
Now I look to my council colleagues. Is there a motion to approve amended 5C2? I have to read
Mayor,
this
I
for the
move
record.
we approve item 5C2 as amended. Got it.
Seconded by Councilmember Adams. And before we vote, I just want to really thank again the residents for coming and speaking and all the emails that we received. As you noted earlier, this was not a public hearing item. This council, and especially myself, along with our staff, really approve and really embrace public comment. So we're very open to that. And I just want to thank our residents for sharing your concerns on all sides of the issue, because it's important to this council so we can make an informed decision and work with the stakeholders in this community. With that, please vote. That motion passes 7-0. Next item on our agenda is our non-consent agenda. All the items listed on the non-consent agenda will be considered separately. Agenda items scheduled for introduction and first public hearing will be heard but will not be voted upon at this meeting. Agenda items scheduled for second public hearing and final adoption will be voted upon tonight. Item 6A1. Item 6A is a miscellaneous items and bids and contracts and resolutions. Item 6A1 is to award a 5-year sole source contract with renewal options to the Confluence Group of Implementation Services for the expansion of the Kona Work Order Asset Management System to create a comprehensive asset management solution to be used citywide. Is there any comments or discussion from the council? If not, is there a motion on item 6A1?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Keating, second by Councilman Arredondo Savage. Please vote. That motion passes 7-0. The next section of the non-consent agenda is ordinance and items for introduction and first reading. There are no items in this section this evening. The next agenda items are items scheduled for a second public hearing and final adoption, and that we will be considered now. These items were read and introduced on December 20th, 2018, and votes will be taken tonight. Ordinances and items for second hearing and final adoption. Item 6C1 is to hold a second hearing and final adoption, to hold a second final public hearing to adopt an ordinance for the amended planned area development overlay and approve a development plan review for a new 2-story, 700,000 square foot corporate office for Donor Network of Arizona, located at 2010 West Rio Salado Parkway. The applicant is Shepley and Bullfinch. This is a public hearing item. Is there anyone in the audience wishing to address us on this item? I know this is a great project for us and for the Donor Network. I see you all. Seeing none, we'll close that portion. This is a public hearing. Is there any comments or discussion or a motion on item 6C1? It's been moved by Vice Mayor Kuby. Is there a second? Seconded by Councilmember Adams. Please vote.
Welcome to Tempe.
Welcome to Tempe. We're happy to have you here. Thank you so much. Next is item 6C2. So hold a second and final public hearing to adopt an ordinance for a zoning map amendment and a planned area development, and to approve a development plan review for a single-family residential development consisting of 80 two-story attached units for the level located at 915 South Smith Road. The applicant is Earl, Curley, and Lagarde. This is a public hearing item. Would the applicant like to make a statement? Mr. Earl, come on down.
Thank you, Mayor. Members of the council, for your record, my name is Stephen Earl. My city of residence for 40 years was Tempe, but unfortunately my grandchildren forced me to Gilbert. At the last hearing we had a couple of weeks ago, we presented to you the facts of the case in terms of the general plan and the rezoning and the style and attributes of the project. A discussion came up about whether we could participate with staff in looking at the program for affordable housing and workforce housing. We conducted that meeting last week. All the staff are here tonight that we met with. As a result of that, just to let you know that we spent almost 2 hours carefully analyzing all of the factors that go into the construction of this project. And we even excluded the cost of the land, just so the cost of the land wouldn't be a factor in whether or not we could participate. Because sometimes it's, well, the only reason you can't participate is you spend so much money on the land. But in designing these units and complying with the design review requirements of the city, building units that were marketable and would be appropriate for its location, and obviously the cost of construction going up, we were unable to fit the project as it's been completely designed and passed through the staff and design review commission and council into that narrow area of market rate, of affordable housing slash workforce housing. So then we moved from that because it didn't seem like we were fitting a square into a round hole. We did discuss how we could participate. Porchlight is committed. They've got 27 projects either built or underway. They do infill projects, that's their specialty. Working with the city to design a project from the ground up that would be workforce housing, and finding the right site could actually work. We may not be as good as Habitat for Humanity, who gets all their construction materials and most of their labor free, but we could certainly work within the city's system. And so we committed to that and said, we'll work with you on sites, we'll work with you on designing something from the ground up. And in the interim, we offered to make a donation to the Affordable Housing Fund of $30,000 that would help families make that down payment for getting into workforce housing. Porchlight and I were happy to do so. As a longtime resident of the city of Phoenix, I shared with staff anecdotally when I moved to the city of Tempe in 1976, I know it's a long time ago, I could only afford to live in North Tempe because that's the only place that I was able to buy a home. And we were fortunate to live there for more than a decade. So I know the concept of affordability. Circumstances change in one's life, either going up or going down. So it's important to focus on this important principle in an all-American city. So we're happy to be part of that solution. I'd be glad to go into any details of the project. We do have our full presentation available to you.
Thank you, Mr. Earl. Yes, Councilmember.
Thank you very much,
Savage.
Mayor. Mr. Earl, I just want to say thank you. Thank you to you and Porchlight first and foremost for hearing us out and taking the time to sit down with our city staff. Thank you to the city staff for really kind of working together to see if there is some things that we can kind of work out. And I know we didn't get to you right away, but you guys did take the time even after the holidays, which I know is kind of difficult to do. But I just want to say thank you for that opportunity. Thank you for wanting to be in the city of Tempe first and foremost. And I do believe that you're going to be great partners for many, many years to come. And I do really appreciate the openness and the willingness to try to find some solutions. And I know we have challenges. I mean, I think when it comes to trying to incorporate affordable housing, this council is very committed to doing that. I've been very committed to doing that, and we've been able to do a lot of things along the way with, being flexible and thinking outside of the box. And it's really been able to work with, partners like you guys that allow us the ability to do that. And I know this didn't really work out the way we would have liked it to, but I'm very grateful for your generosity. So this way, we can actually expand our eCamp program and really be able to get somebody into a workforce housing program and all that work that we put in to be able to create the eCamp program so we can get more of our families into workforce housing opportunities here in the city of Tempe. So I do appreciate that. I'm really thrilled anytime we see a for sale product coming to the city of Tempe, and I certainly do appreciate you taking the time to do that. So again, I'm grateful. Thank you to staff for everything that you guys have done to try to work through this and create and push. I know they did push, and I support them being able to push because we really want a high quality product. And I think that's really important to the city of Tempe and our residents. So again, thank you. Thank you for your generosity. And there are going to be some families that are really going to benefit from your donation. And I'm grateful, and I fully support the project. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Cubey.
Thank you, Mr. Earl. So I do appreciate the work that you and staff and Councilmember Ardando Savage and I brought to try and bring some at least workforce housing elements into the project. And I'm disappointed, obviously, that it hasn't resulted in that. We do have the contribution of $30,000 to our housing fund, which is not nothing, but it is just for one. It'll be for one family, and I don't want to kick a gift horse in the mouth, but I'm just deeply disappointed in the end result. I do want to ask you something about that. I asked staff a number of questions, and they were answered, but one was about the average household income of the Escalante neighborhood, because I'm deeply concerned about the context of the project. And I know that, you must have done a market study, Porchlight must have done a market study in looking at this area, and we do know it's a low-income census tract, the Escalante neighborhood, but do you know from your market study what the average household income level is in the Escalante neighborhood?
In the Escalante neighborhood, Councilwoman Kuby, I don't know the answer to that question. I do know that the townhomes to the east of us are just slightly below the value of the homes we're building, but they were built a number of years ago. And so as the design requirements have increased and construction requirements have increased, we're in kind of familiar territory with the project to the east of us. And then beyond that, there are condominiums. To the west of us are apartments. And so knowing that environment and knowing the distance to the freeway and the distance to downtown, it proved to be an excellent location for housing that would, for the thousands of people that are going to be moving to the downtown for jobs. So while we didn't check the homes to the south, we did buffer the project from the south, and we are improving Smith, and we are improving University. So we're trying to be part of the solution, not.
Understand. And I don't have any more questions. I would like to make some commentary, but wait for the public comment, or if I want to just talk generally about it.
We do, if anyone has any questions, I think for Mr. Earl, he can sit down, and then we do have a public comment. I do have one card. Anyone else have any questions for Mr. Earl? Thank you, Mr. Earl.
Thank you.
I will now open public comment. This is a public hearing item. And Maria Gasca and Jorge Flores, please come on down. Now, if you want to speak individually, you each get 3 minutes. That's probably.
Well, he will need a translation.
Oh, I gotcha.
Yeah, he will need a translation.
You got it.
I can
All right,
do
Maria.
it myself.
Good night.
I'm gonna start. Okay, good night, Mr. Mitchell and City Council. My name is Maria Gasca. My address is 1532 West 5th Street in Tempe. First things, we are here to thank you for all the help we get last year while we were in the process to move out from our home. Due to the plans for this new project, there were 50 families that lose not just a house, but a home. Of the 42 mobile homes that were in this land, only 10 families were available to move their mobile home, which 2 of these, one it's an older people and a single mom with some 4 boys, they still out their house because they haven't been able to move to their property. They moved their property to Mesa. I mean, everybody, they moved the mobile home, they had to move to Mesa because the Tempe has not a place to put mobile homes. The rest of us lose our property because we never got the help, the state of Phoenix, the money that they supposed to have for us to move our homes. We were never able to get any of the help. So everybody, because we don't have time, because we always got a lot of stops in the process, most of us lose our property. Now everybody is far away, and I know it's only us represented this case, but we suffer so much for this new project. And we're asking, by that time we were not even asking for money or anything. We were helping we got more time. I know the project, we've been out of the property for more than 6 months, and they still don't do anything. But I think that's all I had to say there. We are just here just to thank you, because we never come back and thank you with all the moving and all the stuff that we had. But like I said, we still got 2 families that they still living with relatives. Well, one of them, she had to move to Mexico because, I mean, she go back to Mexico, and she's coming back just to make sure that he hasn't been able to get into her property. And the other family is still living with her son, and so they are all together in one place because she never found an apartment that she can rent it for at least 6 months, and she's still waiting for her property because, I mean, she cannot afford another place to be. And I think that will be it for my part. I just want to thank you for the help that you guys, at least that you hear us every time that we were here trying to get help, but thank you for all your help.
Thank you,
And
Maria.
you need
Thank you very much, all
Lisa
people.
Transula.
Yeah, yo nomás lo que quería comentar es,
He just want to say,
desgraciadamente muchas de las gentes que vivían en Tempe Mobile Home,
a lot of the families that live in the mobile homes, in the Tempe mobile home,
sus trailers no han sido aprobadas
que es
por
lo que
ya
ya
sea
dije.
en Tempe, y muchas personas que tienen niños han despertado todo este tiempo con la idea de que no están viendo a sus compañeros,
And a lot
amiguitos, maestros.
And a lot of the kids are still suffering because they have to move schools, they have to move places, they still missing their community that we built for over 20 years that we live on the property.
Entonces, yo me pongo a pensar, desgraciadamente estas personas que tienen este proyecto no pensaron en que iban a perjudicar a tanta gente. Entonces,
Okay. And he just wanted to say to these people who bought the land that they never think how much people they're gonna hurt with this project.
nada más
Ya,
para
un
finalizar
poquito.
es que ellos piensen y que queden sus conciencias a todas estas personas que perjudicaron con su nuevo proyecto. Gracias a ustedes por todo lo que nos brindaron y pues
And we just want to say, like, they being his conscious of the loss that we had, and he just want to thank you guys for your help. And thank you so much.
thank you.
Thank you, Maria. Thank you, Jorge. This is a public hearing item. Is anyone else in the audience wishing to address us under item 6C2? Could you please get my attention? Seeing none, I look for any other comments from the council or a motion on item 6C2?
So moved.
There's been a motion moved. We're going to get to it. There's been a motion by Councilmember Keating. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember Granville. Councilman Navarro, then Councilmember Cubie.
Thank you,
Vice
Mayor.
Mayor Cubie. Excuse me.
I just want to, I think everyone knows it's an extremely sensitive issue. I think we understand, we had this before with another property and property rights and ownership. I think for the city, and big thanks to Councilmember Kubi and Councilmember Adon helping out, it really took a lot of act from the city staff to help the situation as best as we could. This is not a great situation at all, but at the same time, property rights and state laws, you know, we kind of, we don't have much control over that stuff. But with all of that being said, I have to give kudos to everybody. The developer, it might have not went out how people would have liked it to, but I think we're trying to be as sensitive as possible. Like I said, we've been through this before, and I think, you know, we did have a good head start to try to get it better than what it was. But with all that being said, there is a development here. It's going to hopefully be a good project, you know, bring some families in, other families in. I don't like to lose families. I sympathize with the kids and their schools and losing that. I completely understand that, and I hope that they can get reaccustomed. If they're young enough, you know, as they grow up, they should. But I just want to express those concerns, and I'll be voting for this.
Vice Mayor Cubie.
So the average price of these units is expected to be $385,000. And pretty much no one in the neighborhood, the Escalante neighborhood, will be able to afford to live in any of those houses. You'd need an approximate household income of $125,000 for the purchase of a unit. To be in the HUD-defined affordable range of no more than 30% of your income, you wouldn't be able to qualify for a mortgage. And this is based on a 20% down payment, 3.98% interest, and a 30-year fixed-rate mortgage. So that being said, we don't have the tool to require affordability, to require workforce housing from the developer. We're sadly, that tool, which to your credit, Councilmember Granville, you brought up 3 years ago, was preempted by the legislature, and we now have a ban on inclusionary zoning in Arizona. So looking at this, I'm really conflicted because there are good things about the project, cleaning up a lot of zoning. There's going to be some street improvements. There'll be a lot of trees, a lot of shade. There's definitely conformance with the development plan review criteria in that regard. But I need, as a council member, doing my due diligence to look at the requirements for this project and what they're asking for. So in the area of development plan review criteria, I find that they do meet the approval, meet all the criteria, and especially the building design orientation, providing shade, energy conservation, et cetera. Then I look at the PAD approval criteria, that's the second level, and that PAD criteria asks that you take into consideration the location and context for the site for which the project is proposed. This is amongst the poorest areas of Tempe. I know that Steve and Earl sent us an estimate that the average house price in Tempe was $347,000, but that really takes in the entire amount, the entire location of Tempe. I would love to know, and didn't find out this answer about what the average housing price was in Escalante, but I'm sure it's not anywhere near $347,000 and not near the $385,000 cost of the townhome, not a single family home, but a townhome. So looking at the PAD approval criteria, in my mind, I find that it does not take into consideration the location and context for the site for which this project is proposed. There used to be the most affordable, maybe substandard to many of us, but it was the most affordable housing in Tempe. So I find that it does not meet the PAD approval criteria. The third element that we're supposed to look at judiciously is zoning map amendments. So the zoning map amendments ask that shall be based on a finding that the zoning amendment is in the public interest and is consistent and conforms to the general plan. There's no doubt that this project conforms to the general plan. In fact, I'd rather, it goes below the height, below the density of the general plan. I'd rather see it go towards the height of the general plan and towards the density and include workforce and including market rate, workforce, and affordable housing all in one splendid package, because that's the best kind of housing. That's the best kind of housing for building community. But note that in the zoning map amendment, that it shall be based on a finding that it's in the public interest. I do not find this project to be in the public interest. These units are not affordable in the context of the neighborhood they're building. I don't find it to be in the public interest in Tempe, and so I'll be voting no tonight.
Councilman Gringo.
Thank you, Mayor. So a couple of things. So first off, and thank you for the kudos, Vice Mayor Kuby. I share your concerns, but I'm also very excited about what's going on. 3 or 4 years ago, we had a trailer park that went away immediately for a new trailer park. And at the time, council wasn't, they were aware, but maybe not as active in trying to help defray some of those displacements. And now we're a couple of years later, and I'm really excited. Like, it's becoming a standard conversation, right? Like, clearly, the developer is good and receptive to the feedback, but for the first time, maybe in a long time, there was a relatively unified comment about that feedback, that you are displacing families to put in housing that they cannot afford. What does that do to our community? What are you doing to mitigate those things? And I think, having now talked to other developers coming down the way with other projects, I think the message is starting to become clear to developers that there's a reason why this was the #1 thing on our start list of most important things to us. And so I'm really, of course I'd like more, don't get me wrong, but I'm just excited that there's progress. Like, this is really a watershed moment in my mind that we're having these kinds of requirements now. So I would like more. I agree with you. I'm just excited that, like, this is the new normal in Tempe, I think, without the help and, in fact, in spite of the state legislature. So I think it's really cool. I think it's a great project, and I'll be supporting it.
With that, we have a motion and a second. Please vote. That motion passes 6-1. With that, we now turn to our current events and council announcements. I need to start with Councilmember Keating.
Right. Oh, my mic's on. I got to bring it up, sorry. We are having a public meeting about the Broadway Revitalization Corridor Plan. That meeting is Tuesday, January 29th at 5:30 at Max 6, which is 1430 West Broadway Road, number 201. The group is talking about doing some pretty exciting things, so I hope you'll come and join us for that meeting. Thank you.
Councilmember Redondo Savage.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple of things. Zero Waste Day. If you guys got some things that you are ready to get rid of, Saturday, January 26th, start putting those things together and come on down to Kiwanis Park. From electronics and things to that effect, clothing, things that you want to get rid of, and also some shredding. So this is a really great opportunity, I think, for our residents to take advantage of. So I hope you do Saturday, January 26th from 7 to 1 at over by Kiwanis Park. And the second thing is Freeze Your Paws for a Cause, which is really great. Polar Plunge benefits Tempe Adaptive Recreation Program. So I know Lauren said she's going to jump in this pool on Saturday. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. She didn't.
What's the
She didn't
definition
say
of
that.
insanity?
She didn't
I
say
did it
that.
once.
You're not
We
doing
are
it either.
pre-plungers, so if you want to be a pre-plunge partier, come on Friday night, January 11th, 4:30 to 7 p.m. Get a great T-shirt and donate to a really wonderful cause. And if you really feeling like you want to cool off, definitely make it on over to the lakes on Saturday, January 12th, 9 a.m. $20 entry fee, and it's really just something that really benefits our community. So hopefully you all will participate. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilmember Navarro.
Thank you, Mayor. The first one I'm going to read is the operations. You can give the city your feedback at our operations capital budget by attending the public meeting on Wednesday, February 20th from 6 to 8 p.m. at the Tempe Historic Museum or online through Tempe Forum. That's tempe.gov/forum. Select the budget question link. Great opportunity to voice your priorities. And then second, Tempe residents are invited to Neighborhood Day at the State Legislature on Wednesday from 8:30 to 10:30 a.m. Talk to your state legislators and take the tour of the state capitol in Phoenix. Confirm your spot at tempe.gov/neighborhood or phone 480-350-8234. Free parking is available at the Arizona League City Building or take the light rail. Thank you, Mayor. Or scooter.
QB.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I recently became aware of a Tempe nonprofit called Gathering Humanity, and they literally gather items for refugee and asylee families, and there is great need in the community. You might probably have been reading about it in social media, how much need there is out there. They have a warehouse in Tempe, and they supply and completely outfit an apartment and then give the new apartment dwellers a home-cooked meal. And as part of my work fun, I organized a clothing drive, and we were able to donate lots of winter clothing for Gathering Humanity. Just want to make you aware of it, that donations can be dropped off 9 to 12:30. They have a wish list on their website. It's a wonderful new organization, and of course, it's in Tempe.
Councilmember Granville.
Secondly, Tempe Equal Pay. We have workshops every other month now, and the next is Saturday, February 16th. These are for people, not just women, mind you, but anyone who lives, works, and plays in Tempe. They can participate in a workshop. You learn not just about salary negotiation, but about how to market yourself and how to figure out what your market value is. And it's really impactful in so many levels. And I want to thank Rosa and Ginny for organizing this program, and for Kristen Gwynn for being one of the trainers. And it's just an amazing part of our equal pay program. Thank you.
Councilmember Granville.
Apparently I have slides this week too, so I'm very quick. The Tempe Instagrammies. So this is in its second year now. I believe they got about 1,300 photos from all over the world this year. I don't know how they got to Tempe to take the photo. But I believe Councilmember Keating, Vice Mayor Cubey, myself, Arredondo Savage, you also, there's a bunch of us that are going out and giving out awards. Yeah. sorry.
Yeah, not me
Councilmember
either.
Adams. I think
Yeah.
almost all of us are
Yeah,
out there.
not me either.
I'm sorry, yeah, Mayor. All right, so everybody, we'll just assume everybody. I only glanced at the sheet. Give me a break. Will you? Are you sure? All right, then you're going to be there too. Then everyone's going to be there. Point being is it is phenomenal with a capital ph. It's the photos are just spectacular. Chris Baxter is the one who's been doing it in her second year. She's doing it on a shoestring budget, and it is just amazing. Okay, second one. So everyone's going to be at whatever this next one is. They're all going to be at the Kiwanis Tennis Center reopening celebration as well. One of the cool things about this is we actually have cameras now, so you don't have to argue over whether the ball is in or out on the line. You can still argue. That's true. You'd just be wrong now. The truth exists. And additionally, you'll be able to watch games via the live stream feed, so you can cheer on friends and family from around wherever. And the last thing I want to mention, which I don't have a slide for, is I just want to thank Chad Weaver. Just because one of the things that we've spent hundreds of hours on is the character areas. And one of the things that I've been clamoring for is, can I get an analysis of how each project ties into that character area? And while I didn't mention it because it was all tidied up and nice, it was really nice to be able to look at the project that we just voted on and be like, oh, number 1, it's okay. Number 2, it doesn't apply. Number 3, it's okay. Because it gives me a more logical framework to judge if the project fits within that community according to that really robust process we had. So I just really appreciate that, and I'm happy to keep seeing them. It really does help me make a more educated decision, so thank you.
Councilmember Adams.
Thank you, Mayor. It's time for Tempe Neighborhood Awards. Nominate a great leader for Neighbor of the Year, Property Beautification, Alley Upkeep, and many more categories by February 20th. Winners will be recognized at the State of the Neighborhoods Awards on April 13th at the Tempe History Museum. Go to tempe.gov and /State of the Neighborhoods to sign up and nominate your favorite neighbor. Second, the Regional Unity Walk and Diversity Festival will be held on Saturday, January 26th at 4:30 p.m. at Tempe Beach Park. There will be free food, yay, we all like free food, entertainment and activities on hand for this year's festival. Go to tempe.gov/Unity Walk or call Ginny Belusic at 480-350-8979.
Give her our home address.
Third, you're all invited to join Jen conversation series from 6 to 7 at Tempe Public Market. And we have a video that's going to roll about that. Yes, we are. And we're going to talk about streets. In fact, Shelley Seiler will be there to talk about streets, public safety from the police, and development at rural and Warner roads. Each quarter, we're going to go around to each zip code and bring staff according to what the needs of the neighborhood are to discuss the issues and bring them back to City Hall. So, you want to roll? Hi, I'm Councilmember Jennifer Adams, and I'm here to talk to you today about Join Jennifer. We're going to be going around the entire city, every single zip code, to find out what you need from us. So I'm going to be listening to your feedback, your concerns, what's working, what's not, and taking those concerns back to City Hall. Tempe is a very diverse community, and I want to make sure that every community in the entire city is represented well. Please join me for Join Jennifer.
Is that it?
That's it.
All right. All right. A lot of it has been already said that I was going to say, so I just want, if you could put the slide back up for the Kiwanis. I have it in my calendar 9:30, but does it start at 9 and presentations at 9:30?
Where?
On this Saturday?
When's the actual dive?
Does that say, okay, it goes from 9, 10:30. I think our presentation's around 9:30ish, so we could get there from the Polar Plunge. I just want to make sure that everyone knows that this Monday is our annual MLK breakfast at the Tempe Buttes. It is from 8 to 9:30 in the morning. We have a great speaker, and Roy Tatum Jr. I hope everyone could come out for our MLK, Martin Luther King breakfast and celebrate diversity. And I want to point out something on January 20th that Councilmember Adams did. The Unity Walk is something that is very, very important because it's all the communities that surround the city of Tempe. Every respective city wears a different color shirt, and we all have one starting point. We converge and meet at Tempe Beach Park. It's really kind of moving to see all the different cities that surround Tempe as we all come together, Unity Walk, and it's around the Tempe Town Lake. That's something I think is we embrace that. We are very inclusive as a community, and I think that really is a testament to our community. I also wanted to mention that the Instagrammies is something that's really exciting. We did the first year last year, we had the Mayor's Award, and we have another one. The entire council this year will be presenting awards, and it's something that's really exciting. We get some great pictures that we're able to use for our community, and it really just highlights how beautiful our community is. So I want to thank Chris Baxter for everything that she's done, and also our staff, and that will be this Friday at the Tempe Center for the Arts, starting at 6 p.m. With that, we'll conclude council announcements, and we'll go to public appearances. Mr. Keating.
I have an announcement that you reminded me of, and is it okay if I make that?
No.
No, it's not?
No,
It's okay.
we already did it. Go ahead.
I'm coming back.
Now, this is not a segue for everyone to come back for additional announcements.
This is stuff. All right. I just want to congratulate my good friend, Burdetta Hodge, on winning this year's MLK Diversity Award Adult Winner. Burdetta's been a stalwart of this community since she was born, and I couldn't think of anybody more deserving except for the winner in 2015. Thank you.
All right. Congratulations, Burdetta Hodge. And I also want to thank my great third grade teacher, Mr. Bartel. It's great to see you here. It really is. And having lived in, born and raised in a family of educators, and I know, just for the record, Robin was a student before I was, just for the record. All right. But anyways, it's great to see you here, and just so you know, I think you did good. We did good by your leadership and your teaching abilities, so thank you. With that, I will close current events and public announcements. I do have public appearances I do need to read. We don't have anything scheduled, but we do have one unscheduled speaker. Abe, if you want to come back on down.
Council members, again, my name's Abe, and I'm over on the Valorant 8th. On 8th Street, there's a barren plot of land. It's just dirt and rails and ties from the old rail system that used to be there at Creamery Park. I've also asked this of my community to find out who to talk to about starting a community garden there. There's repurposed materials there that are already on site that we can reuse. I've also got vendors that I've worked with in the past that are willing to donate either time, vehicles, probably because it saves them money to be able to participate in this project, such as like being able to re-level that ground. I've got a vendor that works for a trucking company. He's got 20 trucks. He's always got contracts going around the city all the time. He can bring 200-300 tons or 200 or 300 trucks and level out that ground so we can get that leveled out. I also wanted to be able to reuse the ties as a retaining wall to make sure that the debris from the gardening area or the park area, because I was told at one point that this place was going to be used as a public park, but they didn't have any finalized information about the 8th Street between Rural and Dorsey. Again, it's just kind of like a barren strip of dirt that nobody's really using at the moment. So I wanted to ask you guys who to contact, who to get involved with, to try to see if we can work together on making a plan for this place. I'm really good at 3D art and 3D graphics, so if you need something developed, I can actually develop a plan that will work with systems and everything that can get you going on that.
Right. And I really want to appreciate you for coming up and saying that. I can't address the topic you just stated because of laws that you were not scheduled. So what I'm going to do is refer you over to Mr. Smith. He just raised his hand. He can give you some information. There was a plan, but I think if you talk to him, I think you'll understand.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much for coming. And thanks for coming and speaking twice tonight. Alex Smith is right there in the dark hat. Alex, can you raise your hand, please? Alex Smith, can you raise your hand, please? That's him right there. All right. With that, before we adjourn, I do want to wish Elizabeth Higgins, the Chief of Staff, a very happy birthday. Tomorrow, not yet today. So I think she's still 49 today. I'm joking. I'm joking. I'm joking. I'm joking. That was a good one. Come on, you gotta give you some credit. She's not even close, but
Probably insulting for a lot of people.
anyways, happy birthday. With that, we are adjourned.